All right, welcome to a new episode of Opening Bid. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. This, of course, is the podcast that will make you a smarter investor. And joining me today, special guest alert, that is Yahoo Finance Senior Reporter Brooke DiPalma. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, our feature interview today is new Chipotle CEO Scott Boatwright. Scott, good to see you. Welcome to Yahoo Finance. It's been a while. Good to see you.
Good morning, Brian, and good morning, Brooke. Happy to be on this morning.
We're
looking forward to talking about the business.
I'll be doing better once I have my 5-pound burrito from Chipotle for dinner, sir. Let's just be honest. I know you're not going to tell me it's 5 pounds, so I don't expect you to. But I'm just telling you how I load mine up. So before we talk about the business of Chipotle, I think our community and the investing community in Yahoo Finance, they haven't met you before. And you started as a dishwasher. Where did you start as a dishwasher? Tell me about your career journey.
Yeah, Brian. I've been in this industry for many, many years. And so I started out as a dishwasher in high school at a steakhouse in my local community. And I really found a passion for the business. I had this approach to hospitality, this service mentality, really at a young age. And, I don't know if that came from high school athletics or the way my parents, helped me mature and grow into the person that I am today. But, I found a passion for it early on. And that was over 30 years ago now, Brian.
Well, from one dishwasher to another. So I used to wash dishes at a local country club. I know what it was like for me, but what was it like for you?
I can't tell you it was all roses, Brian. So as you can imagine, on a busy, bustling night in a restaurant, the loads of smallwares, plates, and pots and pans coming from a kitchen as a 16-year-old can be a bit overwhelming. And the nights were typically pretty late. The restaurant would close down around 11:30 at night. And so you're there 12:30, 1 a.m. trying to get homework done and get to school the next morning. So challenging times, but very rewarding nonetheless.
Scott, eventually you did work your way to Arby's. You were there for 18 years, I believe. What lessons did you learn from Arby's that you brought to Chipotle about now? What has it been, 7 years since you joined Chipotle?
It has. I was very fortunate to join Arby's at a time. I was going through a pretty sizable transition. The company at the time that I joined was a franchise group called RTM, which was led by Russ Umfenhauer. Don't know if you know that name. I think he's an industry icon. And, I learned a lot about goal setting in the early days. I learned a lot about leadership. I learned about, people development. The byproduct of all those things that we were leaning into was delivering a great experience and roast beef sandwiches. But the business was really about people. And it always has been, Brooke. And so, I don't know that I'd be the leader I am today had not I had that experience with RTM in the early days. That matured. We actually took that company or sold that company back to the parent company, Triarch, around 2005, and ended up taking Arby's public that next year.
Scott, if you had to, if you were going up into space, you had to take one meal. Is it the Arby's roast beef sandwich or a Chipotle bowl? Now, you don't have to say Chipotle because you work there.
That's a tough call.
Come on, you got to pick one.
There's a bit of irony and maybe serendipity here. When I was the region vice president for Arby's, operating out of the Dallas market, one of my go-tos was a Chipotle Mexican grill right around the corner from my office. I spent a lot of time there. I fell in love with this brand when I was first introduced to it back in 2006, 2007 timeframe, and I've always been a huge fan. So you can imagine the day I got the call from Steve Ells to talk about the business, I was ecstatic and excited to say the least. And it's kind of funny, at the time we were doing really great things with Inspire Brands. Rourke Capital owns Inspire Brands today. Paul Brown and I and others were really pulling Arby's out of a rut coming out of the Great Recession. The brand was doing great things, on fire, which allowed them to really build out the Inspire Brands that it is today. But I'll tell you, Chipotle was in my heart, and when the phone rang, I jumped at the opportunity.
Good answer there. So One of the benefits, we'll have taped 100 episodes very soon on Opening Bid. And one of the benefits of that, we've talked to some amazing people. One of them we talked to is one of your competitors. We talked to the co-founder of Sweetgreen. And Nicholas Jamay, he proceeded to talk about how they're building robots into their restaurant. I want to call them robots. There's just a lot of automation that will build your bowls. Now, you've invested in a company like, Hyphen? When are we going to see... And when are we going to see bowls made by automation at Chipotle? From the outside looking in, this makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, maybe some labor savings, you move faster, I get orders out the door quicker. What's the roadblock?
Well, you'll not likely witness your bowls being made. We fully intend to leverage that automation in the digital system only. We still believe the best way to Chipotle is down the line with a team member, highly customized, great variety, big, beautiful burritos and bowls down the line with that human interaction. It's still a core equity of the Chipotle brand. So we will use that digital line once we put it in a restaurant a few months ago. We ran some, and we're moving it through our stage gate process. Now you've heard us talk about that, Brian. The goal here is to continue to iterate and refine that piece of equipment and get it into restaurants sometime in the future. But it'll be primarily in the digital system, making bowls and burritos for us through the digital channel.
Scott, you are a true ops guy. I think everyone on the street knows that. When I went to a recent Chipotle, I was shocked at the fact that there was so much inventory in the digital make line, and then some of my favorites wasn't in the actual make line that I ordered from. How do you think about inventory levels in the physical make line when you go to a store versus the digital make line?
Wait, Brooke, what'd you order?
I'm always a go-to.
Just curious. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Chicken always.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what the specific circumstance there was, Brooke. We should always be in stock on both lines, all hours that we're open. And so, we do have a system that cooks food real time. We don't believe in holding our food on the line. It has a very short shelf life, and we try to move through that product with a lot of velocity. As you know, Brooke, we're using highly fresh ingredients, no GMOs, no hormones, no antibiotics, no preservatives or additives. So we have to manage inventory levels probably more aggressively than our competitors because of the real food that we're preparing and making for the line.
How fast are you getting out these digital orders? How quick does it take to make? I feel like before I even say I'll pick up at 12:45, I get there and on the dot, it's already there. So how fast are you making the digital orders, and how much opportunity do you have there to increase speed?
Yeah, it only takes about 30 to 60 seconds to complete an order on the digital make line, Brooke, obviously depending on the complexity or the size of that order, if you will. So it moves through at a pretty rapid pace. We do throttle orders into the digital system, but on average, through our third-party partners, you can get a bowl of burrito within about 30 minutes to your chair anywhere you're sitting in the world.
Scott, I think I saw it was a video on the Hyphen's website, and they were making what looked to be Chipotle bowls. Now you're investing in this company. What is that? What is that machine? Are you testing that in Chipotle restaurant? It looked like a table, and then up popped a bowl. Somebody pushed the bowl down the line. Is that the future? Because theoretically, rolling that out somewhat chain wide, that's going to fall on you. You have to make a bet on the next decade of Chipotle's life.
Yeah, and I agree. It is a very bespoke piece of equipment, leveraging our team, our robotics, I should say cobotics team here at Chipotle with the Hyphen team to really come up with something that is very unique, very innovative in our opinion, that is able to deliver a great customized bowl in real time. And so we feel really good about that innovation. But it's only one component of our innovation strategy. There are a handful of innovative pieces of equipment that are moving through stage gate as we speak, some short range, mid range, and long range. The Hyphen table, the augmented make line as we call it, is one of the more long range pieces of innovation. But it is my endeavor to really modernize the kitchen at Chipotle. It's been exactly the same for 30 years. We still bring that experience to life, leveraging classic culinary techniques. So think pots, pans, knives, cutting boards, and stovetops. So again, my endeavor is to make it a more modernized experience in the back of house, but staying true to who we are at Core Chipotle around this idea of classic culinary and not walking away from that, because we think that's a core equity of the brand as well.
Well, two-part there, Scott. How specifically are you going to modernize a Chipotle back of the house restaurant? I mean, you are the ops guy. I mean, this is your thing. And then if you do modernize it, does that finally unlock another day part for Chipotle? Is this finally the moment where you could say to the board, you could say to investors, damn it, we're going to start selling breakfast finally. We're going to get a breakfast burrito out the door before 10 a.m.
It certainly could, Brian. I won't say that it will, or that we have intentions of rolling out another day part anytime in the near future, but it certainly could allow us to be much more efficient in the prep process. So that would free up opportunity for other platforms. You know, I'll tell you, if you come into one of our restaurants today, it looks like a true farmer's market. Yeah, there are boxes of romaine lettuce that have been cut fresh from the field, shipped directly to our restaurants. There are, bags of onions, peppers, bell peppers, and jalapenos. That it looks, again, like a true farmer's market. So I call it, what I think about, we'll be at 3,700 restaurants by the end of the year, Brian. And what's really unique and cool about our brand is when you walk into our restaurants, it looks like a mom and pop. And we are able to deliver that mom and pop experience at scale, which I think is a credit to the operators that we have in the field and how incredibly strong they are at delivering the experience.
Scott, hang with us. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back on Opening Bid. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid. Having a great chat here with Chipotle's new CEO, Scott Boatwright, and Yahoo Finance's very own senior reporter, Brooke DiPalma, who covers Chipotle. And your team knows this, Scott. I go to Chipotle and I get these really large
double
portions.
protein,
double protein.
steak,
I am the double guy. I eat 2 bowls. I've sent photos to your team. They know it. I'm not going to repeat the stuff. We talked about it before. But how much longer can you continue to make or offer these very large portion sizes? The costs of everything, whether it's labor, ingredients, they continue to go up. At some point, you have to say, look, we can't give you double of these things, even if you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think a lot of brands today are struggling with that very question, Brian, as they think about how do you continue to drive top line transactions and sales and then manage margins aggressively. So we're dropping money to the bottom line. As you know, Brian, the restaurant business has been a penny profit business for many, many years. When a lot of our competitors are running towards optimization, menu optimization, and value through pricing, we think about value very differently at Chipotle. When I think about value, I think about it as an equation, as benefit over price. And so as price moves up, benefit has to improve at the same pace to keep value the same for the consumer. Benefit, in my mind, is incredible abundance, great variety, ingredients freshly prepared that you can't get anywhere else at a speed which is unprecedented at a great price point. I'll tell you, Brian, our chicken burrito on average in the U.S. today is still under $10. And if you stack that up against any of our competitors in the space today, we're still a 10 or 20% discount to our competitors. And we're going to continue to give you more in your bowl and burrito than you'll get anywhere else.
Scott, so happy to hear that it's still $10. I know that Chipotle is set to take another price hike next year, roughly 2%. What's driving that? And do you really think that consumers can swallow another uptick in cost?
Yeah, great question, Brooke. So we most recently took a 2% price increase action to merely offset inflation we're seeing in the business. Recall, we haven't taken a price increase in over a year in the core business. And so we're seeing inflation in cost of goods. We're seeing labor inflation, albeit modest, but we're leveraging that 2% price increase to merely offset the inflation we're seeing in the business. Again, still driving incredible value for the consumer and still well underpriced our competitors in the space.
I know that under $10 price burrito is a badge of honor inside Chipotle. We've talked about it years with longtime CFO Jack Hartung. He always calls it out. But how much longer can you keep that price under $10? We got wages out there in California, Scott. I mean, they've gone through the roof. They've gone through the roof in many places across this country. Avocados, more. Everything costs more. At some point, is the reality a burrito at Chipotle is just going to cost more than $10 and we have to live with it?
Yeah, and Brian, it's a great question. And I think about it as though, how can we risk mitigate other inflationary pressures by being more efficient within either our supply chain or our operating model. So with supply chain, we have been beholden to Mexico and California for avocados for many years. And over the last 18 to 24 months, we've diversified away from Mexico into Peru, Chile, and Colombia to manage costs long-term for the system. We'll do the same thing within our restaurant operations as well, looking for ways that we can mitigate costs, either rising labor costs or just being more efficient in the back of house by leveraging the technologies we talked about earlier.
I do quickly want to hit on speed. I know that is part of the value equation at Chipotle. How long does it take during peak 15 to 30 minutes? Where are you at now with adding that 5 incremental orders to the speed?
Yeah, we know that speed is a core equity, Brooke, at the Chipotle brand, and we lean into it pretty aggressively. We talk about it a lot. We spend a lot of time on earnings calls talking about being more efficient down the line. Our restaurants that are most efficient at peak in highly trafficked areas, so think major metro, downtown Chicago, can deliver the Chipotle experience in about 9 to 10 seconds down the line. So that tells you the power of our throughput model when we do it and we do it well. We still have wood to chop as it relates to throughput by being properly deployed at peak and ensuring that we have aces in their places in the right position to move the line as quickly as possible. Part of our challenge is getting that massive prep process completed early in the morning and all the prep put away so we can be deployed appropriately at peak. One of the things we're doing there to change the way we think about it is we're going to bring in produce slicers, which we talked about on the last earnings call, to make us much more efficient in the morning so we can have consistent cut sizes, I believe better culinary than we have today across our 3,700 restaurants.
So many companies are talking about getting labor in the door. You guys are talking about filling what you call an expo role between the salsa and the cash register. What exactly is this expo role? Should other companies be looking into this too?
Well, Brian knows this from his restaurant days.
Oh, don't bring me back. No, they kept me in the back, Scott, washing those dishes.
You didn't get that role, right?
No, I do. I ate the food off the dirty plate. We'll take that offline. It's all true. It's all true.
I love it. So it's effectively an expediter, Brooke, and it's someone that is coordinating, what's coming down the table, bagging the orders, and communicating to the cashier what to appropriately ring in for the consumer. And it just creates a level of efficiency on the line that is absolutely necessary at peak.
How many restaurants have this role?
Today, well, every restaurant should have the role, Brooke, to be clear. Today, we're averaging about 60% of our restaurants have an expo position in place at peak that is moving the line effectively for the entire peak. And that's something we monitor and review consistently to understand how we're performing against that key metric.
I happen to think, Scott, Chipotle, and I've said this for a while, I think you have an opportunity in coffee. I mean, that's just my view. I mean, do you want to go head-to-head with Brian Niccol? I mean, who's now your former boss, and he's leading Starbucks, but why not serve a great, large, Mexican-themed iced coffee? I'll pay more. To me, it makes sense, but maybe it doesn't make sense to you, the operations guy.
It's a great question. And, I still see Brian pretty consistently. We work out at the same gym together. We still live in the same community.
Well, thanks for the invite. I wouldn't mind,
Seriously, what's this gym?
Yeah, I mean, just send me the invite next time.
Yes. You have to come down to Southern California, both of you, next week. Get in the gym early. We start around 5 a.m.
Wow.
Anyway, we'd love to have you out. But, I think coffee's a neat idea. I think once you get to a point in the business where you need to launch breakfast, you got to have a great cup of coffee. And so, whether that's a partnership or something you spin up on your own, innovate against coffee today, could be meaningful, but I think it's necessary.
What is the key differentiator between Chipotle under Brian Niccol and Chipotle under Scott Boatwright?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, Brooke. And, Brian and I are a lot alike in many, many ways. And the reason we were so complementary as we worked together over the past 6-7 years, I think there are a couple of things that I think differently about the Chipotle brand. A couple of those is one is modernizing the restaurant back of house. I think is a critical component to us getting to 7,000 restaurants in North America, and then how we think about international growth. I also want a more connected Chipotle brand As an operator, as you can imagine, I want everyone here to be in service of our guests in a really meaningful way. And I talk about this mantra that I have, that at Chipotle, you're either serving a Chipotle guest or you're serving someone who is serving a Chipotle guest. So a more connected community that understands the tie all the way to the consumer. And then lastly is this idea of a global iconic brand. I think about as Steve Ells, founded the brand and grew it to, just around 2,000 restaurants in a really meaningful way as the founder of the business. He handed that off to Brian, and Brian, stabilized the business, got it growing again, and really made it a national brand with leveraging national marketing, connecting with consumers, and driving brand relevance and brand love. It'll be my endeavor, if you think about it in phases, in this third phase of growth for Chipotle, continue to drive incredible North American results in same-store restaurant sales and new unit growth. But then think about how do we show up internationally on the international stage, whether that's growth in Western Europe or international partnerships like the one we have with Alshaya today.
Scott, long-term goal here is 7,000 restaurants. What do you think is the biggest challenge when you go to these new markets? Is it awareness? Is it getting people on board to come in? What is the challenge here?
There's really not a significant challenge in front of us, Brooke. I joke, and I say this jokingly, I could open a Chipotle restaurant in a field in Iowa, and people will find their way to that restaurant.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm there already. Open it up, Scott. Thank you.
And so, we are showing a lot of great progress and strength in some of the smaller communities that we go into. This small town strategy we leaned into about 18 months ago is paying huge dividends. And I think that's a credit to what this leadership has accomplished and really making Chipotle a national brand and driving brand relevance and brand love and making it more visible. And so, our challenge will always be, we can build as many restaurants as we can actually sign leases for. The challenge will always be around growing and developing talent within the organization and being prepared for that growth as the years unfold.
In the last 2 minutes, Scott, we always like to ask our guests some hot takes. We don't know where it's going to go. I'm actually just pulling this out of thin air right now. Pretty much nothing is written down, as you can see on my paper. So my hot take for you is this. Both you and Brian seem like pretty relaxed guys. Like, how do you deal with stress? And as an operations guy, how do you get out of the weeds? Is it hard to delegate?
Yeah, great question, Brian. There is stress, and I don't know that it's masking stress, but more managing stress in the most appropriate way. It's a challenging business environment. You've got to be able to synthesize large volumes of data in a really meaningful way. Stay true to your strategy, stay true to your purpose, and keep putting one foot in front of the other is what I would tell people. You can't let the things that are out of your control, external influences, drive you bananas. Again, stay true to who you are, stay true to your strategy, stay true to your purpose, and good things will happen.
Lastly, we're just going to ask for another one here. When you're not eating Chipotle, what's your go-to? Do you like to barbecue? What are your go-to items? Are you a chef? Are you a cook? Tell us more about yourself.
I love to cook. I'm a huge cook. My wife loves that about me as well, because I don't think she likes to cook. I may be putting words in her mouth, but there's nothing that's more pleasing to me than being at home with friends and family in the kitchen with knives and cutting boards, whether that's grilling or smoking or smoking meats on a big green egg. I have one of those. I think it's.
I just got a Traeger, Scott. I just got a Traeger, and I've been making some brisket. Any tips for me? I think they're coming out okay, but to me they seem dry.
Low and slow, Brian.
Yeah,
low and slow is the key.
Writes it down.
Or just buy it at Chipotle.
I love it. But just spending time with family, socializing over a meal is how I like to spend my time.
Scott Boatwright, we're wishing you much success over at Chipotle. Big job, big goals, getting to 7,000 restaurants while continuing to serve up sub-$10 burritos. Scott Boatwright, good to see you. Looking forward to staying in touch. And a special thank you to our very own Brooke DiPalma, senior reporter at Yahoo Finance. And that is it for the latest episode of Opening Bid.